that many jumps, that many years, you never had an accident?
The most serious accident I literally had was on the volleyball court. I sprained an ankle real bad, but thank goodness I was low on the jump list, and so by the time, you know, I got up, I was okay. And then in Silver City, I had one jump that I was, you know, the wind always blew, it seemed like. I went in backwards. That's when we had the old 5.8, so you didn't have much forward speed. Man, I hit on a boulder, and we had fiberglass in the back of the packs. It literally split the pack. I mean, it shook me up. It hurt, but you know, I didn't have to get evacuated or anything.
Yeah. When you got that Silver City detail, did you stay the whole summer there?
Well, no, that was usually just a 6-week gig. You know, but as I recall, that was usually like June to July, or maybe, just depending when the fire season started. And they're still going down there. I mean,
yeah.
I've been on several fires here as an information officer that there have been jumpers on.
Yeah.
Initially, anyhow.
Well, when you left, you retired from the jumpers.
I retired from jumping.
And so then what happened?
Well, what happened was, because we had career conditional status, we could do detail work. And I worked at MEDC, I did planted trees, I marked timber, did prescribed fire. And then they needed someone in the regional office of public affairs, you know, just as a temporary deal. And so I went there, and that's when the roadless area review and evaluation 2 was going on. And I got roped into, you know, doing the public involvement and a bunch of stuff around that. And so, then the next year they wanted me back. I worked all winter actually, and they wanted me back. So I was supposed to give a presentation to all the forest supervisors and forest planners. And so I'm up there yakking away about the virtues of Rare 2 and how it was going to be a lot better than Rare 1. Get ready, it's going to be wonderful, you know, because I believed it at the time. And so, you know, Ray Carr was the director. He's the one that had hired me. And he said, you know, I'm going to talk to Regional Forest of Torheim. We got to make you a permanent employee. And in those days, there was ways they could do that, I guess. But, so I never, even though I was qualified as a forester and a fisheries and wildlife biologist, I never worked a day as a professional. I did some technician work. And then, you know, I had to get used to having a full-time job. It was tough.
Yeah, and you're working in Missoula?
Yeah, at the regional office.
So how long were you at the regional office?
I think it was 3 years. Then I went up to the Flathead for 3, and then I went to Washington, D.C. I got recruited to go to D.C.
And so what did you do in Washington, D.C.?
I did public involvement most of the time. And then I had a couple years I oversaw the cooperative outdoor environmental programs, which was a bunch of grants basically. And then the Woodsy Up program. And that was kind of fun, just because I ran my own little business within government. It was kind of neat. And then the last 9 months I was there, I got a legislative fellowship up on the Hill. So I went up and worked for Congressman Bill Klinger from Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania, where all my kinfolk and stuff was. And that was like a sabbatical. That was fun. And I learned a lot. I mean, it was helpful. Because later when I moved to Albequerque, and that was part of my portfolio, was doing legislative affairs. I mean, I knew it from their side as well as from the agency side.
So, well, now why did you move to Albuquerque?
I didn't want to stay in Washington, D.C.
But you were still working for the Forest?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So what'd you do down there?
I was deputy director for a while until they abolished those jobs.
Deputy director of what?
Of public affairs. And then I ended up being the legislative affairs coordinator, and, you know, different side things. If there were special projects, I often.
Was that a regional office? Or?
Yeah.
Wow. So you kept your hand in the firefighting end of it a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I got my Type 1 fire public information in '88. It was after a bad fire down in the Gila, actually. And but then I had a young family, and I didn't go out a whole lot unless there were fatalities involved or airplane crashes. But then in the year 2000, I started to get real active again. You know, and was on, the Dome Fire, Borrego Fire, and then I was on the Rodeo Chetaskai. That was an experience. That was the 10 of all the fires I've ever been on.
Tell me about that. I'm not familiar with it.
Well, at the time, it was the largest fire in Arizona history, and what happened was the decision was made when they were going to get all the people to leave Show Low, and the fire team was going to stay there at school, got it out, and the decision was made to let the media stay. And so at one time, and I was in charge of taking care of the media. I did some of the stand-ups, but mostly that was Jim Paxton, who was the, spokesperson. But I just had to kind of keep them entertained, because, when it was real scary, it was pretty easy to keep them in camp because they were scared. And I had to get them equipped with fire gear, and equipment would say, I got to sign all these things. I said, no, we don't have time to sign people up, Give them pants and shirt, We'll just hope we get most of it back. I mean, you just had to do things differently because of the nature. And then we ended up having a sign-up sheet, and we had 341 different media there on that incident one time or another. And that was during a 2-week period, because I was there 2 weeks.
Why was it the mother of all fires? What was it, big or?
It was huge, and it wasn't wind driven. It was plume dominated, and you'd get this huge plume, and of course it goes up and it collapses, and then there'd just be fire going everywhere, and it was really hard to fight it. I mean, I wasn't doing any fighting. I was just trying to get media close enough to get some photographs, that kind of stuff. But we had the Show Low police were really good. They took the media around, and then we had 3 school buses, I think, that we'd haul them in, and different people would take them out so they could get some photos. CNN, as I remember, had 17 people there in that fire at one time.
What year was that?
2000.
So then what came after that?
Oh, several more.
More fires.
Yeah. I mean, anytime, if it was a type 1 fire, I mean, my various bosses had different attitudes about letting me go. Because in legislative affairs, as soon as you had a bad fire in the region, well, then the congressional delegation was whining and complaining. How's come there aren't more air tankers? But anyone can do that. I thought my skill set was better suited being out there, keeping the media satisfied, because if there isn't someone there for them to talk to, I mean, I always tell the media, hey, you guys are helping us do our job. A lot of people don't have that attitude. There were even information people. And, if you didn't give them something, they were going to make it up. So it's better to try to keep it factual.
And at some point you left the feds and started working for the state? Right?
Well, no. When I retired from the Forest Service on April 2nd of 2012, I became an administratively determined, which is called AD, as a Type 1 information officer, working out of the Southwest Coordination Center in Albequerque. But then when I moved over here, they decided they couldn't keep me. And they didn't tell me that until like June of that year. So then I went and talked to the state, and then they picked me up as either a Type 1 or actually it was assigned to a Type 2 fire management team, Roy Hall's team.
And did you have any fires then that you worked on?
Yep. 4 days after I signed on the dotted line, I hadn't even been oriented yet to the state stuff. I got a call, and of course I live here in Wickenburg, and they wanted me to go up to Yarnell immediately. So I threw my gear in the back of my own pickup and went up there. And I was the first information officer there, and the Type 3 team was still in control, but Roy Hall was setting up his team. I think they took over at like 10:30 or something, and I got there at 9:30. And then fortunately there were a couple of women there who had been evacuated that knew their way around. And they knew people at the school, and so they came in, they helped us get a phone hookup in the thing, and I found us a room. And then we had a lady from one of the local fire departments that knew a lot of people, and So between my cell phone, another guy's cell phone that was actually on the team too, he came a little after I did, we were just talking nonstop. And we were up there at the school in Peoples Valley, and it was where we set up, or the room that I commandeered. We had permission, of course. I could see the main part of the fire. When I drove up, I didn't think it was even burning, other than a few little smokes. But then it started going north towards Peoples Valley, and I could see the flame fright. I mean, we were just to the east of the main part of the fire. And then sometime in the afternoon, and I mean, I could read the report, but we weren't keeping a log, we weren't doing anything. We were just on the phone constantly. And I saw a major wind shift. And that's whenever, it headed in towards Yarnell. And then that crew didn't make it.
A lot of media that you had to deal with after that?
Yeah, what we did after that same day, and it was the right decision. We had the media leave the school. A lesson learned from Rodeo Chetasky Fire: don't keep them there when there's fatalities. And there was 2 roadblocks set up, and so someone would go down and talk to them at the 2 roadblocks.
Yeah.
At least until they were concerned about getting the fatalities out and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Is there anything more you want to say about that?
Yeah. Some of the people, Type 1 team came in, and I'd been out with that team several times, and they kept, checking to see how I was doing. And I said, I'm doing okay. They're professional firefighters, just like I used to be. They know the risks. And for me, emotionally, being the first Type 1 team to go into Katrina at the airport was a lot harder for me.
Well, what was it? So, Katrina, what year was Katrina in? It was like